Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev with me, DJ Q Macro, and we're on for another part 4 of our Back to Basics series on OData, the Open Data Protocol. I've got my coffee, I've got my tissues. Hay fever is really hitting me hard this morning, so I apologise in advance for snivelling. Oh, I've just seen a tear in my that side in my green screen. Oh my goodness me! It's really funny. No matter how much you check it, I don't know. Maybe I knocked the chair or knocked the green screen or something. Anyway, so let me know if there's any tears. So good morning to Helmut and Fabrice and Gesa and Tim. Good morning and welcome everybody. Everybody's welcome. Actually, one thing I've found is that if I stick my nose in the coffee, and the steam of the coffee, it sort of dulls down the pollen. But anyway, we'll get through it. We'll get through it. So, yeah, what this session is all about is, hey Niels, long time no see. Welcome, Niels. Oh my goodness me, where have you been? Where have you been? Yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter where you've been. The fact that you're back is very important. And Deep, good morning to Deep. Good morning to you indeed. And Mark, moin Gandalf. Gandalf, yes, Gandalf. Thank you very much, Mark. Yeah, I went through this phase of, is this beard the right thing to do? And it was getting a bit longer. And I thought, just persevere and push through. And yeah, there we go. AP, good morning to you, AP in Dusseldorf. AP in Dusseldorf. Flatline, good morning. Welcome, Flatline. Welcome, everybody. And welcome, Mattia. Mattia, is that Mattia? Is that correct pronunciation? And welcome, Bruno, as well. Oh, my goodness me. Lots of folks joining. That's really cool. So, yeah, let's get started. I was just saying this is part 4 of our sort of dive into the fundamentals, this particular topic being OData. We've looked at a few bits and pieces of OData. We certainly, this is certainly not the last episode in this little series. One thing I'm looking forward to doing, let me know if this resonates with you, is looking at function imports, or as they are now known, just functions in OData version 4, and also actions. Not only actions and functions, but bound and unbound versions thereof. Hey, Vladimir's good morning to you as well. Oh my goodness me. So many wonderful people here. And I'm going to blow my nose. There we go. Okay. So, like I say to those, hey, Marianne, good morning. And Marianne, oh, little wave emoji there. Perfect. So yeah, I'm going to do probably at least one more of these live stream episodes on this topic next week, and maybe one more the week after. And now that's it. We'll maybe move on to some other fundamentals. You love this season. Thank you. I assume you're meaning the series and everything, rather than the pollen season, hay fever season. I don't love the hay fever season, but I think maybe you're referring to the video seasons. Anyway, so let's get started. Let me move on to the main scene. Yeah, I've pulled together some examples of using filter. I thought we'd just work through them. And I want to focus in particular on just the URL conventions of using filter and the sorts of things you can do with it. And we're going to choose examples from 3 different OData services. Because I think while what we're going to be doing doesn't relate directly to, for example, using the OData model in UI5, I mean, in the background, the OData model in UI5 will make these sorts of calls for us. But what I think is super important is to understand what OData as a protocol can do, what it supports, the sorts of things that you can expect to be able to do when you're using either directly or indirectly through a model mechanism like the OData v4 model in UI5, the sorts of things that you should be able to do, okay? Because knowing how things work underneath is not only interesting, but it's also important. So that's what we're going to do. And we've got here a repo. I think we've shared this repo. We've shared this repo before, but this is the repo. Isn't function imports SAP jargon? Is the place in OData standards function? The function import was or still is, oh, that's a good question, Flatline. I think OData function import, function import, actions and functions. Maybe I didn't. Let's put it in double quotes there, actually. Function import. It does look as though it's an SAP specific phrase, doesn't it? You know what? I never thought of that. But anyway, functions, function imports. You know, it's the same sort of thing in terms of, you know, V2, but when we go to V4, and that's what we're going to be looking at, we also have actions as well. Yeah, so good point, Flatline. Nice one. I love all these comments and questions and, you know, making sure we're saying the right things. Yeah, and I've talked about function imports before. They're a sort of, in my mind, slightly orthogonal, or like that, to you know, the pure essence of what OData really represents, which is like a RESTful protocol, because it sort of circumvents the beauty of using verbs and nouns, the beauty of HTTP as an application protocol upon which OData is based. And its function imports, or functions and actions, are more related, in my mind at least, to what one might think of in terms of, in SAP terms, remote function calls, or in more general terms, remote procedure calls, or SOAP calls. You know, remember the bad old days of SOAP and WS Death Star and everything? But anyway, we'll talk about that next week. And Luis, good morning to you, and nice to have you here as well. Amazing new look, DJ Adams. Thank you very much indeed. It's because I'm running my monitor. It's a 27-inch monitor. I don't like more monitors. It just confuses me. So I'm running it now at 4K, and I've got therefore 4 1080p windows, 4 1920 by 1080 sort of windows. One of which is running the YouTube Studio, one of which is running Streamlabs Desktop, and I've got a browser window and a terminal window. You know, I can switch between them using Amethyst like this. There we go. So I can see everything on one screen. So I can see you all in the chat as well. So Tiago, welcome Tiago. Nice to see you, Tiago. So there we go, CRUD function. Yes, that's what I thought. When you said CRUD function, Deep, I thought you might mean CRUD function. Exactly. So anyway, yes. So we'll talk about actions and functions next week. What we've got in this repo here, and I've just merged a branch that I've been not working on, but, you know, sticking things in this week related to all things filter. So let me just explain what this repo is. We've got here, you know, basic requirements. Okay, to run this yourself. This repo contains a very, very simple CAP service, okay, which is an OData service which you can run locally, and it's also got some documentation. Okay, so in fact, rather than, I've shared that in the chat, haven't I? So let's just go to here, and where are we? All things filter. I'm already there. Okay, OData basics, hands-on SAP dev. Okay, John Murray. Good morning, John Murray. Oh my goodness me. Welcome, 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 welcome. And you can see here, if I say cd, in fact, let's have a look at the files here. We've got all the normal, you don't need to know this, you don't need to worry about this, but basically for those CAP folks here, we've got a very simple schema. Okay, we've got products, suppliers, categories, and summary of sales by years. This is a new entity type that I brought in for the purposes of demonstrating some dollar filter stuff for today. Okay, we got that. We've got some data as well, and I've grabbed this data from the original Northwind service. This is so that you can run your own Northwind, you know, your own cut down Northwind service in an experiment, and also see what support CAP has for OData v4, which is a lot. Okay, it's pretty amazing. In fact, cap.cloud.sap/docs, and if you look in here, in the advanced section, serving OData APIs, an amazing set of information here about that. Let me just share that with you as well. There we go. So there we go. Yeah, so let's just flip back to here. Where are we? Here. Let's go here. There. Okay, fine. I've now exposed basically those entities in a main service. You can see here. Okay, product, suppliers, categories, summary of sales by years. Okay, that's that. And I've also got a little app which we looked at There's a UI5 app that consumes that OData service. We're not going to look at that today. But also in here, I've got a little bit of HTML, a filter HTML, which is sourced from, where is it? OData base, I know, from, where is it? Oh, filter, there we go, filter, edit. So this is the stuff we're going to go through. I've just created a page, basically. Let me go back to here and go here and look at the filter.md. We're going to work our way through these notes. Okay, is that okay? Does that make sense to everybody? And it allows us to start slowly on the different sorts of filters. All questions, all comments, all criticisms, more than welcome as always. So please put your thoughts here about what we're doing. And if there's anything missing, let me know. I might not be able to do it, but you know, I'm just learning by you. Oh yeah, one thing I was going to share with you as well, V2 4.0 OData conventions. What I'm basing all this on is, and you know, I'm beginning to know this document very well now. It's an amazing document. This is OData version 4.0. There's also a 4.01 which came out later than 2016. Thank you, AP. Thanks for confirming. Brilliant. So there's that thing. And what I've been doing is going through here and having a look at section 5.1, the system query options. Okay, and this dollar filter. Okay, if you look at dollar expand 5.1.2, for example, dollar expand is there. I mean, a little bit bigger, I think. Yeah, dollar expand is there, and that's it. And then it goes to select and everything. But when we look at dollar filter, let's go back. Look at dollar filter. There's a ton of stuff. Okay, we've got logical operators. We've got examples, arithmetic operators. We've got grouping, string functions, maths functions, where is it? Date and time functions, well, arithmetic functions, type functions, geographical functions, lambda operators, literals, complex and collection literals, $it, $root, path expressions, parameter aliases. All these things relate to dollar filter. In fact, some of these things relate to other system query options as well, other than dollar filter. And that's why if we look at 4.1, v4.01 specification, if we look down here, go down a little bit there, you'll see that they've reorganized. I mean, you don't need to know this, but it helps you understand how we land into what we're going to be playing with. Because in the version 4.01, they've sort of slightly reorganized the spec. And this, by the way, this particular spec here is part 2 of the spec. Okay, part 1 is all about the protocol. Part 2 are the URL conventions, this document, and there are other parts as well. Okay, so they've reorganized it in such a way that within the system query options section, they don't dive straight into dollar filter and look at all these stuff. They organize this stuff which we've just gone through, scroll through, into a new section on its own. Common expression, syntax, logical operators, arithmetic operators, canonical functions, string and collection functions, etc., etc., etc. Okay, and then once they've sort of covered all those that can be used with various system query options, mostly dollar filter, then they start looking at dollar filter, dollar expand, dollar select, and so on. So that's just a little bit of a hint if you want to start reading through the specifications yourself. So there we go. So that's what I did. And there's some really cool stuff for lambda operators. We've got some lambda operator examples to come. So remind me not to forget to show you those. So we're going to close that. This is version 4.01. So I'm going to close that. We know it comes around 4.0. Okay. And the way that I've organized the information here, so you can sort of play around at home as well, is I've gone through these different sections and come up with some examples to illustrate some of the things. Okay, so if we have a look at this here, this is filter.md. Okay, on the GitHub repo, we've got 3 different OData services. We've got the Northwind, the classic Northwind OData service. In fact, let me just go to there, close that. Open up the Northwind, and the Northwind OData service, make that bigger, is the one we all know and love, okay, with products and suppliers and categories and orders and employees and customers and everything. There's also the CAP-based v4 OData service in this repository, the thing that we're running here. Okay, in fact, I'm not running right now. CDS run, the thing that gets served when we do CDS run. Okay, that's that. And if we look at that, that's just a cut down version. So all we've got is product, suppliers, categories. That's what we had up until last week. And now for this week as well, we've got another, it's a slightly weird sort of entity set, summary of sales by years. We'll look at that shortly, okay? And the third service is this TripPin. I don't know whether they picked that name because it's sort of a play on TripPin. I have no idea, right? But that is to do with trips, airports, flights, and so on. A little bit like S-Flight, I suppose, but there's the new OData v4 sample service. It's got people, it's got, you know, events, locations, and so on. Okay, and that's a really nice v4 OData service example because it's got sort of the edge case stuff as well. It's got sort of collections of strings in arrays that don't have any property names, and it's got derived types, and it's got enumerations, all these wonderful well, not edge case OData things, but all these wonderful interesting OData things to have a look at there. Okay, so all the examples that we're going to be looking at through here. Got a message there. What's going on? Oh, Wordle. Got this little WhatsApp group in the family. We all like, well, I'll put our Wordle results on in the morning. Anyway, so I'm going to go through here. So let's start. Let's get rid of that one. Any questions so far? Any questions? So we just start to dig in. Okay, we've got a really simple one. So the way that, so let's start with the simple one here. The way that this happens is that we say here, is that big enough, by the way? Yes, it is big enough. We have, actually, you know what? 4.0, there we go, let's go there, right? Let's have a quick look. Somewhere here, it tells us, and I think it's important to understand. There we go, look at that. An OData URL. What component parts are in an OData URL? We have three things. We've got the service root URL, and that's that service root that, you know, is one of the two well-known, I've always said there are at least two well-known resources in an OData service. The service root, okay, which is this bit there, and notice that the service root also includes the slash there. Then we have the resource path, which is basically normally where you specify the entity or the entity set, the collection, the singleton, you know, that sort of thing. And here you can see the resource path is pointing to the product's navigation, which is a collection, relating to the first category. So categories is an entity set. Brackets 1 means with the key 1, so the category number 1, ID 1, and the products for that, okay? And then we have, separated of course by the normal question mark, which separates you know, the main part of the URL generally, with the query string. And the query string consists of a number of name value pairs, and each of them are joined by an ampersand, okay? Just like in any sort of URL, right? It just so happens that the system query options in OData, they all begin with $, okay? $top, $skip, $order by. I think in version 4, you can now, or version 4.1, you can now omit the $. I don't know why they decided to do that. It seems a bit weird. But anyway, okay, so that's the sort of thing we're looking at. So that when we start to dig into the URLs, now you have a better understanding of, you know, what parts are what. The service root URL, the resource path, and the query options. Okay, so let's go back here, there. Oh, somebody said something. Lewis says, which is the maximum volume of records that are requested without get poor performance? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think some performance testing would need to be done there. You know, you have there's different ways, I suppose, of of going about grabbing a whole lot of records. First of all, you want to think, well, do you want to have all of the properties of all of the records? Or, for example, if we say here products, let's go here, products. Oh, look. Because I'm running on 4004 now. I changed it to 4004. So in the repo, when you do the repo, it's a long story why I'm using 8000 now, because I'm running a dev container and I've only normally exposed my port files. Where is it? DCD dev container. Let's start. I only normally exposed 8000, but I'm now exposing 4004, so I can sort of look at the stuff there. There we go. Anyway, so you could say, well, do I really want all the information, or do I want just select equals product name? That cuts down the data quite a lot. For example, you've also got standard HTTP compression that you could use as well to compress, a massive load of records in an entity set. I think it depends. I think the answer is it depends really. John Murray says that would likely depend on the server resources, client resources, network bandwidth, and size of the individual record. Exactly. There's all sorts of things upon which an answer to that question would depend. But it's a good question. I think if you start talking in terms of pulling down an entity set with tens of thousands of entities in it, then you might think, are you doing this regularly? Why are you doing this? Maybe there's a different way to export the data. We did have a little bit of a conversation last week about this, didn't we? Or the week before. Well, I mean, in the previous one about is OData for ETL, for mass data loading and unloading? You can use it for that, but it's not really designed primarily for that. Okay, I hope that sort of gives you it doesn't really answer your question, but I don't think it's possible really to answer that question very definitively. As John says, load testing should be done on a case-by-case basis. Exactly, I agree with John there. So Mandel, welcome as well, by the way. Entity set for Schiphol waiting time. I'm not sure what that means, but is that to do with the TripPin, for example? Yes. That's what you mean. The entity set for Schiphol waiting times is going to be very, very long, especially also lots of airports in the UK. Chaos at the moment. Could be a good topic for next session. Could be. Yeah, we could do some performance testing and so on. Go binary for ETL. Oh, flatline there. That classic flatline comment there. Very controversial. Go binary for ETL. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, so let's go back here. So now we understand the structure of the OData URL. We can see here is let's grab it there. That is the service URL, okay, which we all know. And then we have, as it says here, the resource path, which is, in this case, just products. And then we have the query string, $filter equals discontinued equals true. Okay, and if you look at this here, of course, the way that I'm writing this is with spaces, but of course, when you send the URL, you need to URL encode certain things, including spaces that get encoded. This is not OData. This is just HTTP generally, or URLs generally. Spaces are URL encoded to %20, the hex for a space, for ASCII for a space. 32, yeah, 3220 space. Anyway. So, Hussein, good morning as well. So keeping entity set field names short is a best practice. That's a good question. I don't think we can be as state something as simple as that, because then when you keep the entity set field names short, then it becomes less obvious what those fields might mean. One of the things that OData was used for in the early days was to expose sort of system services and system resources, business resources in an SAP system, for example, with user-friendly fields, so that non-SAP developers could consume the information and say, oh yeah, I know this is a product name, or it's a product description, or whatever. I got to say, I'm still all for 5-character field names like we had in R2. But anyway, that's just me. Andrew, good morning. Good evening, Andrew. And as Tiago says, which is what I was about to say anyway, if you're going to use compression at the HTTP level, then that sort of stuff gets compressed anyway, and will make little or no difference. But yeah, great. These are all great questions, all great questions to ask ourselves and think about while we're sort of designing and consuming OData services. So let's have a look. We've got filter discontinued equals true. So that basically means we've got a property discontinued. The property is Boolean. If we have a look at the dollar metadata here, dollar metadata, we can see product discontinued is type edm.boolean. Okay, so we can say discontinued equals true, and we only get the entities in that entity set. How many are there? In fact, let's add the system query option $count. Notice that $count is not only a system query option, you can also append it to the resource path and say, just give me the count. So $count equals true. We get an annotation here to say, and there are 8 results. Okay. So out of 77, if we look at product 77, $count, there's this is not a system query option. This is part of the resource path. Just be aware of how these things are used differently. There are 77 products. Okay. But if we say here, products, well, just there, we don't get 77. We get, or do we get 77? Oh, we do get 77. Oh yeah, we do get 77. If we go to some OData services implement server-side paging. So if we went to Northwind, there we go. I'm going completely off piste again. There we go. Never mind. Northwind.svc. There's the SVC. There's the service document. But if we say products format equals JSON, let's have the system query option format equals JSON. What we get is, in fact, what we get is 20, but we get a next link. Okay, server-side paging. So you've got a page through. This is a beautiful, restful approach to managing resources. Flatline in Gateway. Flatline says in Gateway we should implement the filter options handling. What is the situation in CAP? CAP does a lot of the stuff for us out of the box. So yeah, definitely have a look at the OData implementation details that I shared the URL for earlier. The CAP OData support is pretty amazing. You can let CAP do the work, or you can then sort of step in and preempt that or post-empt that. That's not even a word, or override the standard handling. So there we go. So where are we? Okay, so we've not even got it's already 8:27. Not even got past the first thing. Am I going too slow? Let me have a look at another one. Okay, so this, just to let you know, just to sort of help orientate ourselves, this is a logical operator. EQ is a logical operator. Discontinued equals true. Okay, so what about products that are discontinued but there is still stock? So we can have the EQ logical operator, discontinued equals true, but we can also have another 2 logical operators. Units in stock is greater than 0. And we've got an AND logical operator as well. Okay, so let's do that one. Let's open that one up in there. Let's close these ones down. I keep confusing myself with everything. So there is, in fact, let's again add the $count, ampersand $count equals true. How many there? We go from 8 down to 4. And that is because we've got here products that are discontinued, but there is still stock. So we're now saying, okay, well, units in stock is greater than 0. Okay, units in stock 29, 20, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's that. Products in CAP. Now, this one here. By the way, is this helpful? Just going through these things here. Let me know. Let me know in the chat. Tell me. If it's not helpful, then we'll do something else. So here we've got another logical operator greater than equal to. Unit price is greater than equals 25. What products are expensive. However, the difference with this example is that we're going for a filter on a resource path, right? That is not just a simple collection. Okay, this is the products for category 2. Okay, so if we have a look at that, there's categories 2. Let's get rid of that for a second. There's categories. There's categories 2, which is the sort of old style, put the brackets around it. But if it's a simple sort of, simple identifier, you can also say categories /2, right? Same thing. But then we can say because metadata, because we've got in the products a navigation property it's called category, but it goes to categories, right? Okay. Sorry, we've got a navigation property. Where is it? Category. Where are we? Categories. There we go. Categories has a navigation property called products, which goes to the collection products. We can follow that navigation. What we're doing here is we're saying follow the navigation property products. Okay, but then we're going to put the filter on products to. Let's just open that one up again. There you go. Products to there. So we're going to say categories. Category ID2, so that's a single entity, but we're following the navigation property called products on that entity to get all the products and then filtering down those products to just where we've got products with unit price greater than or equal to 25. There's 4 of them. Their unit price is 25, 40, 28.5, etc., etc. Does that make sense? Great pagination. It is a good way to handle requests and keep a good performance. It is exactly pagination. By the way, if you're interested in pagination, slurp, in order to grab some of the data from the Northwind service that has pagination, I wrote a little slurper which automatically follows the server-side paging. There we go, and that's it. Okay, so have a look at that. There's slurp, and I've got those other little tools that do that. So I'll share that with you as well. Okay, so far so good. One other really crazy interesting filter usage of the logical operator is this one here. I couldn't demonstrate it with the Northwind one because there were no enumerations. This is an enumeration. Okay, so if we have a look at the if we've got this thing here, let's open up this one. In fact, before we do that, let's get rid of that and go to the metadata. You will see in the TripPin service that in the schema, we've not only got types and complex types and entity types and complex types, we've got also an enumeration type, okay? Like, maybe colors or, I don't know, whatever. Here, there's an enumeration type person, gender, male, female, unknown. Seems a bit limited, but anyway, there we go. So in that example now, we can say here, people, filter equals gender, because gender is, in fact, let's go here. Person, where is it? There we go. Property, name, gender. It's a type, person, gender. So the type of this particular property, gender, is defined by this enumeration type. So that's why we can say here, people, filter, gender, has, and then you specify the namespace of the service, and then the enumeration type, and then the actual enumeration, female. Okay, so who are all the female people? Elaine and Sally and Joni and whatever. Okay, so that's just an example. I've never used that myself, but I thought that was quite interesting, right? As a different type of logical operator, has. Okay, we can also use the $count in the resource path and use that as a value to compare in a logical operator context. So we've got here categories, $filter products, which is a navigation property of categories. But we can also say, give me the count of properties and show me only the categories where the count of products is less than 10. So let's click on that one. There we go. So in fact, why don't we say, well, what are the products, right? And $expand equals products. Just to show, okay, so we've got here, in fact, again, this is a bit of it's a bit too much to have a look at here. But am I looking, because I was switching my video around, so when I look over there, I'm looking sort of on my video over there. Yes, that's working right. Okay, fine. What we can also say is $select within the expand brackets. Okay, so this $select system query option relates to the expanded entity set. Select equals product name only. We're going to get the product ID as well, right? But there we go. So this is where, right, we've got categories with fewer than 10 products. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fewer than 10, fewer than 10, fewer than 10. Okay, so there's an example of where we can actually even refer to the $count value of a navigation property in a filter. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, perfect. Mark says filtering for date fields and date ranges are always cumbersome to do. They are. I've got a couple of examples of dates, but because the Northwind didn't really have that many dates, I didn't have any more examples, but we'll get to those. Arithmetic operators, we can rush through these because they're quite boring. We've got products, filter equals units in stock, add units on order is greater than 100. So for example here, and this is one of the crazy things about OData. There's so many, unknown or not that commonly known features. Is there any limitation on number of filter conditions? Well, that's a great question, Mode. I don't know. I've not come across that in the spec. I would guess that the limitation is more related to the limitation on the size that the query string can be, and that limitation is related to the size of the URL itself. So probably not. Maybe certain OData service implementations have limitations, but that's a service-specific limitation, right? For example, an OData service served by CAP, an OData service served by RAP, an OData service served by ASP.NET, for example. They may have some limitations, but I don't know. Good question, though. Exactly. So as Tiago says, the URL length will probably be the ultimate sort of limiter there. Products, units in stock, add. Okay, so this is where we're saying here, let's take the units in stock value, the value of that property, and take the value of the units on order property and add them together. And is the result greater than 100? Let's look at that sort of with spaces here. Is it greater than 100? Do we have more than 100 units of stock and back orders combined? What products have we got there? We got a few, right? So we got units used in stock 112, so that's more than 100. We got 120, 104. There's lots of hundreds here. I want some smaller ones. There we go. Units in stock 22, units on order 80. 80 plus 22 is more than 100. Okay, so that's quite nice as well. Really cool. Flatline is asking, does CAP support add out of the box? Not yet. The mathematical functions, okay, and this is why I've gone to the Northwind service here. The mathematical functions are not yet supported. Mathematical operators are not yet supported. Add, mul, multiply, divide, modulo, and so on. That's coming, but it's not there yet. The logical operators, yeah, sure, and all the other different things, yes. Okay. But it's good to know, right? It's good to know that these things exist, right? So that's that. We've also got, for example, here, for anyone curious, John Murray says, as to the difference between has and equals like me, the answer is, drum roll, what's John going to type? There we go, let's see what John puts there in the chat. Thank you, John, for this. It's brilliant information. So products, here we go, here's another one, using multiply. So products with a high stock value, if you multiply the unit price with the units in stock, is it more than 3,500, right? Okay, so John says the equal operator returns true if the left-hand operand, the left operand is equal to the right operand. Otherwise, it returns false. The null value is equal to itself. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to read all of that. Yeah, okay, this sounds like it's directly from the spec. Yeah, perfect. So has is, I think, mostly in relation to enumeration types, rather than equals is just a direct comparison of values, basically. Okay, so we got that. We've got multiply as well. So have we got products with a high stock value? We got Côte de Blé and Raclette Curavaux. These sound very expensive to me. Yeah, so that's I guess that's why. By the way, I've got. What time is it? 8:38. Okay, no, let's carry on going through. So string functions. We've got string functions. These are supported by CAP, of course. When I say of course, what do I mean of course? Yeah, of course. So string functions. We've got what suppliers, okay, have a phone property with the value that contains 555. 555 is that sort of magic phone number in the US that is only in films or something, I don't know. And also where they've got a value for, where they've got a value that's not null. This is not the normal null. This is actually, a string value null. A bit confusing, but that's how the Northwind service data is. We got a contains string function and also a logical operator and. So let's have a look at that one there. There we go. So we got 555 in a phone, and we got something that's not NULL in the homepage. Okay, there's only two. 555 in Australia. G'day, mate, on the World Wide Web. There we go. So that was an awful accent. Sorry about that. So that's that. Now, products with short names with length. Okay, length product name is less than 5. There we go. Chai and tofu, they're all less than 5. So again, we're getting the hang of these sort of operators and functions. I'm going through because I want to sort of dive into some more interesting ones. We've got one more, airports. One thing you can, which is really nice to be able to do, is to say, well, use the contains function, string function, but you don't have to have, a property name and a raw string to compare. You can compare 2 property names. So the fascinating thing about airport codes is if we open this one up, this is from the TripPin. What are the airports where the ICAO code is sort of very different to the IATA code? And I've got a link here. If you follow the link there, IATA versus ICAO, I looked at that on Wikipedia. It's quite interesting differences. In fact, if we remove the not, okay, so we remove the negation, we can see, for example, that some airports have, KSFO, SFO, San Francisco, KLAX, LAX, etc., right? KJFK, my favorite airport, CYYZ and YYZ. Does anybody know what's my favorite airport? Think of Prog Rock. Who knows why YYZ is significant? So AP asks, while using CAP, are these filters pushed down to database or applied at service Node.js level? Oh, that's a good question. I think it depends on the filter. If the filter can be pushed down to the SQL, then it is. Otherwise, no. But I'd have to check with that. It's a very good question, though, AP. Very good question. Okay, let's get on. We've got date and time, and I think Helmut, you were saying about the date and time stuff as being quite cumbersome. It is. I've got here, a couple of examples. Summary of sales by years. This is why I brought in this summary of sales by years entity set. It's actually a massive list of order IDs and subtotals and when the order was shipped. Okay, and this is here saying, let's go back to here, it's saying it's using the day function to say, give me the day of the month of the shipped date, and comparing that with the logical operator if it's equal to 1, as in show me the orders shipped on the first day of a month. Okay, so that's that. So we can see here ship date, first, etc. Right? So there we go. So that's that. Total. Yeah, this is quite interesting. It's a bit of a bonus digression. I remember Gregor Wolf was talking about $apply a couple of weeks ago, which is quite a relatively new thing for OData. Doug Maltby gets the answer. Rush, YYZ Toronto, yes. Best band in the world. Exactly. Yeah, YYZ. Well done, Doug. 100 points for that. And welcome, by the way. Where are we? What were you doing? Oh yeah, there we go. So here's a bit of a bonus. You can look at this one offline yourself, but we can also use $apply. I'm not using $filter here, but within the $apply, which is this super magical, mega system query option, you can do aggregations, you can do filters, you can do grouping and everything. So if we look at this one here, what is the total order value for 1996? So where the year of the ship date is 1996, I want to aggregate all the subtotals using the sum mathematical function, mathematical operator, and giving it a property name total. Let's do that. There we go. Total 193363316 dot something. Okay. Anyway, right. There we go. There's some dates there. So arithmetic functions. Here we go. So I wanted to. I've got time to do lambda operators. I wanted to just come up with some random example using arithmetic functions. So some of the unit prices in the products. If we go to products here, you can see that the unit price is 18, 19, 10, 22. In fact, let's do it here. $select equals unit price. We can see that some of them have decimal places. So this one was just a silly little example to say, I never know when I chop things off. There we go. Products. $filter equals, does the rounded version of unit price not equal to the unit price? As in, when you round it up, is it different? So, one silly way of finding whether there are any sort of pennies or cents in the unit price. Okay, doesn't make that much sense in this example. It's a bit contrived, but you can sort of imagine where that might come in. Okay, so we've got through quite a few things. Is this something that is familiar to you? Let me know if you've done these things before, because I'm super interested. I want to get onto the advanced usage though. In the last 15 minutes, we've got here. We don't need that for now. Discontinued products. But one of the really cool things I came across, which to be honest I've not seen before until I read the spec, is and this is supported by CAP, which is pretty cool. We have a lambda there's a couple of lambda operators, and the lambda operators are any and all. And what these operators are things that take function definitions, on the fly lambda. That's why they call lambda operators, because you can supply a lambda function, which is basically an anonymous function, a very simple function. And that function, I think, has to be a predicate function, i.e. has to return a Boolean, true or false. And you can use that function then also in the context of a filter. So let's have a look what that means. What I was sort of looking at when I was waving my arms there is this one. So let's have a look at this one. Let's concentrate on this one. 80% of Mark says 80% of the filter options I never used. Quite interesting things are possible. Exactly, Mark. Yeah, and this is hopefully this is getting across the sorts of things that you can do, the sorts of things that are possible in an OData service, and therefore it gives you a little bit more, not ammunition, that's the wrong word, a bit more confidence to understand the scope of the sorts of things you might want to be able to do in the front end. Okay, so Andrew says this is somewhat similar, although different to SQL. Both allow lots of magic beyond the obvious. Exactly, Andrew, exactly. So this, again, another contrived example. What categories have products that have got a high stock, units in stock? You got a product with a load of stock sitting on shelves. I don't know, right? So let's have a look. Let's just read through this here first. Maybe a bit bigger, right? Read through this first. So we're looking at the categories entity set. Okay, so that's the resource path URL, part of URL. Then we get into the query string, the system query options here. We're using expand equals product. So we're saying, give me the categories. But unlike the previous example where we had categories /2/products, which is just give me the products specifically for category 2, we're saying give me all the categories and explode the navigation property products for each of those. Let's do that first of all. Let's open that up here, but do that first of all without the rest of the stuff here. There we go. So we're saying here categories expand products. So there's category. In fact, we go there. Come on, there's only a few categories, isn't there? There we go. So there are how many? I don't know. 8 categories in this particular example. And we're saying here category 1 beverages description, and then we get the products property, which is a navigation property, and therefore we get as a child, as it were, as the value, we get an array of products. Okay, so this is expand. This is the result of expand. So now let's put back the filter, and what we're saying here is filter. I only want the categories where any of the products have a high number of units in stock. Okay, but note, this is not exactly what we probably want, but I wanted to show you this first of all. Okay, so if we do that and hit enter, we have category 1. We've got units in stock 39, units in stock 17. So why are we getting this information, right? Because really, here, where units in stock, come on. There we go. One of the products in category 1 has a value for units in stock that's more than 100. Okay, just remind ourselves of what we're doing here. Products, any units in stock greater than 100. Now, also, what is this x:x? If we think about this, let's just copy this string here and just open up a new thing. In fact, yeah, is that big enough? That's big enough, right? What this is, there's the lambda operator, any. So the lambda operator is any something, right? That's the lambda operator. And what we're passing to it is x units in stock greater than 100, right? And what that is a function definition. It's a lambda function definition where the first x is the parameter for the function. And then the colon sort of separates the parameter specification from the actual function body, which is x, which is, whatever's passed in, / units in stock. And then greater than. So this is like in JavaScript, that would be, let's call it x.units in stock greater than 100. That's that. 100. So that is what we're looking at here. Okay, does that make sense? So just look at that, stare at it again. Any is the lambda operator, and we're passing it a function, which is, I'm going to highlight that without clicking it. I can't highlight it. Anyway, we're passing it a function which has one parameter, x, and then we're saying, whatever x is, which is one of each of the products each time, because products is a collection, is the nth, is the product's units in stock property greater than 100. Okay. Now, that's not what we want, but because, here we go, categories here, categories, because we get we get all the products regardless of whether we have units in stock, because what we're saying is we're filtering on the categories, okay? And that's not what we want because, where are we? Because we're using any, okay? Here's an example of where all is probably more appropriate. Does that make sense? So Lewis is agreeing with Mark about the filter options being used. Limit data. Okay, perfect. Okay, so here is an example. So categories with no discontinued product. Remember the products have a discontinued property, which is Boolean. Okay, so we're saying here again, categories will expand the products, but filter where the products, and we're using, instead of the any lambda operator, we're using the all operator, where we have discontinued false. Okay, so we want to make sure we only have categories where all of the products in that category have false for the property discontinued. Let's do that. There we go. So how many have we got? We've got 3. 1, 2, 3. So we've got 3 categories. Okay. Discontinued false, 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 right? And then here, discontinued false, 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 blah, blah. And category 8, which is seafood, also all the products are discontinued. So all is probably, to my mind, more useful, okay, than any. Now, let's have a look at this one. This is quite interesting. Let's just get rid of all that stuff there. Close, tap to the right. There we go. Open that one. So now what we're saying here is categories with at least some stock for every product. Oh, there's an S extra there. Who wants to do a little pull request and change that? So category, oops, sorry, there we go. Categories, let's go back again, with at least some stock for every product. So we're expanding the products. We're only wanting the product name in that expansion. Okay, and don't forget, we'll get the product ID as well. That's a CAP implementation detail. And we're saying here, we only want the categories where all of the products have a value greater than 0 for units in stock. So there is the products. There, category 3, there are the products. Category 5, there are the products. 7, 8, and that's it. Quite cool, quite cool. Now, the final thing we got, we got 7 minutes left. Applying filter to an expanded navigation property. Now, we had, okay, here, when we did a categories expand before, categories expand, let's do that there, expand equals product. We did that already, right? Or maybe we didn't, 4004. There we go. So we can say here, we want the categories, we want to explode the products within, right? But the products, not the categories. I want to filter the products, not the categories. I only want to see the products in that expanded navigation property that are discontinued. So let's have a look at that. I can't remember which one was which. Let's close that one again. Let's open that there. So category 1 has a discontinued product. There it is. Category 2 has a discontinued product. Category 3 and category 4 don't have any discontinued products, okay? So that's, let's go back to here. That, is okay, but there's a nicer way of saying just give me the categories that just have discontinued products and what they are, okay? So in category 3, clearly, if we look here, categories, localhost 4004, categories, what is it? Category 3, products, select, no, I'll do actually just products there. We've got false, false, false. We got some, false, false, false. There's no discontinued products in category 3. That's why we get an empty navigation property expansion there. Okay, that's that. But we get empty sort of results that we don't really want. So let's jump down, as we've got only a few minutes left, to a better list of that. So that's where we said categories expand, products filter equals discontinued equals true. But if we add one of these lambda operators, okay, to not filter on the expanded navigation property like we're doing there, but we also want to filter on the resource that we're specifying, which is category, and we want to filter based upon the resource's products property. It's a navigation property that points to an entity set, and we can say, show me the categories where any of the discontinued products, where any of the products have discontinued equals true. Okay, so let's just have a look again. Let's close that one and close that one. Let's open up that one and then open up that one. So there we get, we get category 2 with discontinued product. We get category 3, category 4 with no discontinued product because they don't have any discontinued products. However, if we apply this extra filter at the resource path level, at the categories level, to filter on the categories products navigation path with this lambda operator, we get category 2, 5, 6, and 8, all with discontinued products, but we don't get those empty categories. Okay. My goodness me, I thought I wouldn't get to the end. Well, in fact, first of all, I thought, oh my goodness, this is far too little to talk about in the hour. Oh yeah, here we go. One more thing. Email addresses in the example domain. This is I've never seen, going back to Mark's question here, I've never seen $it before, but $it is effectively a way of referring to the last part of the resource path, and it's especially useful when, if we have a look at this, right? Have a look at this. Let's just get rid of that for a second. Emails. Let's in fact get rid of that thing there. Here's an example of an entity. In the people entity set is a person, right? Russell White. And in one of the properties here, emails, it's weird. It's just an array of strings. Okay, so how would you filter down and find what you're looking for when there's no sort of property name, email 1, email 2, or whatever? You use $it to refer back. So we can say here, show me the email addresses in the example domain, as in where it contains the word example, for a person. There we go. And there it is. There is the single email address in that array just of strings with example in it. Anyway, it's top of the hour. I think we've done enough $filter. Have a look at the lambda. I think the lambda operator is super interesting. I think Niels is saying that lambda operator, it looks like some tricky stuff. Tricky equals cool, yes, and super powerful. And the beautiful thing is that the lambda operators are supported by CAP. Okay, so we can play to our heart's content. So download, clone this repo, start the repo running. There you can see all these different things here being served by CAP right now in a beautiful way. Flatline is saying, make OData service to use it in another OData service. I think I must have missed some contact there. Anyway, I don't want to go over the hour. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that was useful. I hope it gives you a bit of an idea of the sorts of things that are possible in OData v4. Yeah, and have a great weekend. And I'll see you next week. We'll talk about actions and functions, I think. Let me know. Okay, bye for now.